Assalamualaikum. My name is Najwa Fatini and I'm going to continue the presentation with the second major group of Spiralia, which is Platyzoa. So under Platyzoa, we are going to learn two types of Platyzoa, which is flatworms and also rotifers. And both of these groups have bilateral symmetry, and also they do not have circulatory system and or respiratory system. Next, we're going to look to the characteristic of flatworms. So as the name suggested, flatworms has a flat body. They also have an incomplete digestive system, which means they only have one openings. Meanwhile, for a complete digestive system, the organism have two openings. For example, human. They also do not have cavity body, but instead they have a third germ layer, which are called mesoderm, that fills the space between organs. So, Dogasia is one of the planarian that lives in freshwater lakes, streams, and also ponds. They feed on small living and also dead organisms. So, how do they eat? They actually have two types of digestion. The first is the extracellular, and second one is the intracellular. So planarians eat using the muscular pharynx, where they extend it through the mouth, and the food they take in while doing the sucking motions, and it leads to the tree branch of gastrovascular cavity. So because they only have one opening, all of the waste molecules exit from the body through the mouth also. In this picture, you guys can see the planarian anatomy, and this is the pharynx where planarian use to suck all the organisms or living organisms as their nutrients. And this is the gastrovascular where they are located. So next is the excretory system. So the excretory organ of planarians are functional in osmotic regulation and as well as water excretions. So the organs consist of series of interconnecting canals that run through the body of planarians. They also contain a bulb-like structure which contains cilia, where cilia will move back and forth to take in water to the empty parts of their body. They are also responsible in osmotic regulating system. So in the picture below, you guys can see the excretory system of planarians. Next is the reproductive system of planarians. Planarians can undergo two types of reproduction, which is sexual reproduction and also asexual reproductions. So for the sexual reproductions, planarian actually is known as a monoecious or hermaphroditic, which means they possess both female and also male sex organs. So how do they undergo the sexual reproductions? Actually, they undergoes a worms cross-fertilization where one planarians are the giving sites and another planarians is the receiving sites, or vice versa, because they contain both of the organ sites. So they will insert the penis into the genital pore to transfer sperms into one another. Next is the asexual reproduction. So how do they undergo reproduction? Asexual reproduction is through regeneration, which means when planarians are cut into few pieces, they can grow into a new worm from the pieces that are break off. So actually, many scientists also do some research into a medicines, regenerative medicines for humans. So this picture shows how planarians are cut into few pieces, but they can still grow up into one complete planarian or one complete worms after days. You guys can see no matter what types of cut they undergo, they will still grow up into the new worms. Next is the nervous system. As you guys can see in the picture, Planarians, the nerve cords and also transverse nerves of planarians are arranged in a ladder-like structure, which is why the nervous system of planarians are called as ladder type. They also contain paired ganglia, where the nerve cells are located, and it is functional as the primitive brain of the planarians. They are also bilaterally symmetrical and exhibit spiralization, which means for bilateral symmetricals, when they are cut off into two, the both sides look exactly the same and exhibit spiralization, meaning all of the nerves and sense are concentrated at the front body of the planarians. So Bacteria also contain auricle, which auricles contains chemosensory cells and also tactile cells, where it is used to detect food and also enemies. Planarians also contains eye spot at the fronts of their body, and the shapes of their head is like a arrow shape. So for the movement of planarians, they have three kinds of muscle layers that help them to do locomotions, which the first one is outer circular layer, inner longitudinal layer, and also diagonal layer. For a larger form of planarians, locomotions uh, are accomplished by the movement of cilia at the lateral and also ventral surface of the planarian. Moving on to the parasitic flatworms. So a parasite need a host body for them to live, where they will take nutrients for them to continue living. And they also have lost civilization, which means they do not have any sense, any nervous system, and the head of the organisms are replaced by hooks or sucker that enable them to attach in the host body. And they also utilize secondary or intermediary hosts, where the offspring are passed from primary host to another primary host. So one of the parasitic flatworms is flukes, and flukes are named after the organs that they inhibit. For example, blood flukes, lung, and also liver. So at the anterior end of the flukes, they have oral sucker. They are surrounded by sensory papillae that enable them to attach to the human body. So next is the cystosoma life cycle. During this life cycle, female flukes will transfer their eggs into the lumen of the human intestine. So the eggs will make their way into the digestive tract of human through a slow migratory process, and the egg will be removed together with feces, and the egg will eventually hatch and into a tiny larva, where they will swim in rice paddy or elsewhere until they enter a particular species of snail. So inside the snail, sexual reproductions occur in sporocysts, where they contain a spore-containing sacs that eventually enables them to produce into new larva form. So if the larva form penetrate the skin of human, they will become matured in the human's liver, and eventually they will attach into the blood vessels of human intestine. So people that they are affected by flukes will eventually develop dysentery, which is the inflammations of intestine, anemia, and also bladder inflammations. So for non-human species, the flukes can enter their body through fecal route, while for human, it occurs when we eat raw fish. Moving on to the tapeworms. Tapeworms are also types of parasitic flatworms, which varied in length that can start from a few millimeters until nearly 20 meters. So they have a highly modified head region called scolex, which contains sucker and also hooks. Hooks are enable them to attach to the host body, while the sucker helps them for feeding. For the reproductive system, tapeworms are hermaphrodites, which they contains proglotid behind the scolex, which you guys can see in the structure. And the proglotid contains both the female and also male sex organs, and which the number of proglotids are varied depending on the species. So after the fertilization, organ within the proglotids become disintegrated, and proglotid become gravid, or is said to be full with mature egg. After mature, the eggs will be released into the host intestine, and then exits with the fetus. Or in other organisms, the proglotids will break down and will be removed from the body with fetus. So this is the anatomy of tapeworm. As you can see, this is the mature proglotid. This is the mature proglotid, and this is the tapeworms inside the human intestine. Next is the tapeworm's life cycle. For example, is Taenia solium. Taenia solium has human body as the primary host and pig as the secondary host. When pig eat contaminated food, larva will be released and travel through the bloodstreams and finally it encys the muscle wall, the muscles. And this contain bladder worm. When human can be infected with tapeworms when they eat infected meat. They are not cooked thoroughly. Last one is the rotifers. So this Anthony Person, who is the microscope inventor in 17th century, viewed microscopic rotifers and called them as real animalcules. So rotifers have crown cilia that is known as corona. It is a different corona from what we know right now. And this is the organ of locomotion and also directs food into the mouth. Most of the rotifers live in fresh water, and most of the rotifers are transparent, but there are also some in a colorful structure. And during the harsh conditions, rotifers will desiccate, which means they will become completely dried and remain dormant for a long time, which means they become inactive for a very long time. So that is all from us. Thank you so much. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy these presentations and have fun studying this chapter. Thank you.